Hi, my name is Tiffany, and welcome to Present for Myself. I want to talk to you about forgiveness and whether you are truly walking in forgiveness if you decide that you still want to deny access to the person or institution or entity that offended you. Forgiveness and restoration are two different things. Unfortunately, many people try to make the two inextricably intertwined, and that's where you start getting in trouble. We start telling people, oh, you can't really be forgiving if you don't allow them back into your life, if you don't let them have another chance, if you don't allow yourself to be opened up, to be placed at risk once more by that individual. You can't really be walking in forgiveness. You've got to have faith. You've got to understand that you can be protected if you just walk in love and forgiveness. I'm not mocking things like faith or love. I really am not. But what I am is showing you just how tired I am and just how indignant I am about the prospect of putting other people in harm's way because we have this notion that they have to prove that they have forgiven by reinstating and allowing access. Forgiveness and restoration are two different things. Forgiveness means to cancel a debt. Forgiveness means to decide that you're not going to walk in offense anymore. Forgiveness means that you're going to walk away from the situation and release that person from owing you anything. That's what forgiveness means. It is not some flowery decision that you make where you are now all of a sudden just so light and bright. It might be. Maybe it's a feeling for you. Maybe you felt lighter and maybe you felt better after you decided to just release the situation. It's not going to take up room in your mind anymore. Maybe that's the case, but it doesn't always have to be that way. Sometimes it's just a black and white decision. I forgive. I release. I will not hold this against you any longer. Period. Restoration says, I not only forgive you, but I now allow you back into my life. I allow you back into this space of my heart and of my mind. And I allow you back, being worthy of my time and my energy and all of that. And those are two different things. And like I said before, unfortunately, we get to a place where we start strapping those two things together. And that's when we open up the door to be re-traumatized, to be hurt yet again, to lose more. Sometimes you have to bring the two, separate them, and say, I decide to forgive you, and I'm going to move on with my life, and you move on with your life. Enough said. And the restoration part, let it just float on off onto its own, because that doesn't always have to come with it. So when I think about forgiveness and restoration, I'm reminded of a story of my son one time. He used to collect these little beautiful stones anytime we would travel or go on vacation. And he had this beautiful quartz crystal that he really liked that we brought for him. And he wanted to take it to school and share it with his classmates. And so he took it one day and he said, that some of them were just very in awe of it. They were like, ooh, ah. And he was a little, like 6, 7 years old at the time. One little boy took the stone from him and threw it on top of this building. And they couldn't retrieve it. They couldn't get it off. And he got into the car that day and I said, how was your day, hon? And he was mad. And he told me about how he was mad at this little boy and how it hurt his feelings and how he had some strong emotions with regard to that. And I allowed him to just go off. And he went off in that back seat for probably a good 3 minutes about that stone and how he threw it up there and, the look the little boy had on his face. Now, I know there's some parents right now that are thinking, oh, you should have immediately taken him back to the school and, maybe put the two of them together and maybe had some forgiveness because you teach children forgiveness this way. Well, when do we teach children that it's okay to process their feelings and their emotions surrounding being hurt before all of that? Because what we do is very immediate. We do it because it's convenient for us. They get into a fight, we immediately bring them together, say forgive, walk away, forget, act like it never happened again. Well, for some people, some children and some adults, that's just restored access for them. That means that they feel like they can just go back to treating you any old kind of way. See, I asked my son, I said, well, what do you intend on doing about that? He said, I'm not going to play with him anymore at recess. And I said, and that's your right. That's your right to do that. Now, because they're children and because children forget very easily many times, within a day or so, they were back friends again. And my son wasn't really thinking about his little stone on top of the building. And if he was, he didn't let that stop them from playing together. But for initially, he set those boundaries. And if he had decided that, I just don't deal with him anymore, or I'm going to treat him a little differently going forward, I would have been okay with that. As long as he wasn't walking in some sort of contempt and saying, I'm going to he's going to rue the day that he took my stone and I'm going to sit and lay in wait and wait for him. We got to work on that, babe. But I let him process that. You have a right as a person who has to show up for yourself and protect your being to determine how you want to walk in forgiveness and how you process that. So let's say that you decided to forgive somebody, but you really don't want to deal with that person anymore. Or let's say that you decided that you want to forgive someone and you've decided you'll do it, but only under new, stricter, stronger boundaries. If it's a person that you're going to continually have to deal with for whatever reason, maybe it's a coworker, maybe it's someone that you're going to see regardless of whatever takes place in your life, you may want to set boundaries and parameters for dealing with that person. And so you let the appropriate people know, I can do this with regard to that individual, but I won't be able to do this with regard to that individual. Or you may let that person know if it is appropriate to do so. If it is a romantic relationship or what have you, you might say, here are the new parameters under which we'll operate. The ones that will make me feel comfortable, the ones that will make me feel like I'm not being re-traumatized or taken advantage of again. And you let them know that. And then for some people, depending on who they are or the nature of the relationship, you have to go completely no contact and deny access. So how do you do that? How do you deny access? For some people, you don't have to tell them or explain anything to them, depending on the relationship. Sometimes you just have to get legal authorities involved. Sometimes you have to just walk away. You have to get, special assistance in the way of therapists and like I said, law enforcement or what have you. That's not what I'm here to get deeply into. Because when I give you this information is for educational purposes. I'm not trying to advise you on how to move in those ways, but I'm saying, you have to make the decision that you're going to deny access. And somehow, some way, they're going to know that, whether you verbally told that to them and then you move in that way, or whether you don't state it and then they just see that there's a difference in the way that you move, or they see that there's a lock on the access that they used to have to you. So letting them know or not letting them know, but moving differently. Does it sound harsh? It does. But does what took place that allows you to even feel the way that you feel in the first place, was that harsh? It had to be. Mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, financially, socially, whatever brought you to this place, you're going to have to meet that with, if you decide to forgive and deny access, the ability to say, I'm going to have to deny access in that area. So that was number one. Now, number two, you make it a point to not engage any longer in any activity that's going to open the door or reopen the door for that person to have access in your life. And believe you me, people will try it. I watched a video not long ago where this couple, they had broken up and clearly she had been the one to initiate the breakup. And so there's a knock at her door and she opens the door. And this is like one of those funny TikTok videos. She opens the door and the guy's standing there and he says, I came for my stuff. And she's like, I put it on the table. And so sitting on the table, he goes to get what it is he came to get, and it's a candy cane and a pencil. This dude called and was like, I want to come and get my, stuff. And that was all she could find at the house that belonged to him. And he did not refute it. He grabbed up his candy cane and his pencil and he walks back out and he gets to the door and he's like, so you really going to do this, huh? We're really doing this. And she's like, yes. And she just politely shows him out. Sometimes it can be something that small and that petty that they'll use to try to get back in with you. And you have to watch yourself too, because if you start missing that individual, you'll be coming up with all kind of reasons. I got their scarf, so I guess I should just go over there, or I have, this or that if they, no. Once you decide that you're going to deny access, once you decide that you're going to go no contact and cut it off, then that's probably what it's going to need to be. Find ways to keep that part of the bargain for yourself, because you're not trying to reopen a door to re-inflict a wound. It gets harder and harder to repair. You already are trying to grow scar tissue, which is stronger after the fact. You don't need to have those things reopened again. I hear someone saying, wow, that's like really working hard to stay, in a spot where you're kind of being mean or no, it's not. It's making sure that you don't continue to work hard to keep that person in your life and have to do all kinds of twisting and contorting and justifying to allow someone to stay in your situation. See, that's hard work. Someone who is slowing you down, someone who is pumping your life with toxicity, someone who is making you walk on eggshells, someone who you cannot trust, someone who you do not feel safe with mentally, spiritually, physically, emotionally, financially, or whatever it happens to be. That's hard work. Denying access is shutting the door and saying, I don't want to be working that hard anymore to be in what is supposed to be a loving relationship or a trusting relationship or a relationship that is mutually beneficial or all of those things. See, that's hard work. Number three, inevitably, you are going to be talked to or approached possibly by someone who's going to say, have you really forgiven if you're denying access to that person? Like they're really out here hurting and they don't really feel like you've forgiven them. Someone's going to try to reach out to you. It could be an aunt, an uncle, a parent, a friend, someone, a mutual friend, someone who you both have in common, or someone who just sees the situation. It makes them uncomfortable because they couldn't ever possibly move like that. And they may question you and they may say, have you really forgiven if you're denying access? Like I saw them the other day, or I spoke to the people at that institution the other day, and it just doesn't feel like you've forgiven if you've denied access. And then you say to them, it's because I have forgiven, but I have not restored access. Those are two different things. You can say that. Like there's a difference. Bro, I move differently than just letting someone back into my situation just because I've forgiven them. Yeah, be comfortable with saying that. Be comfortable with saying, I forgave, I just didn't restore access. Because restoration and forgiveness are two different things. Number 4, and this kind of piggybacks on number 3, be mindful of people and engaging with people who make it their business to try to bring you back together with someone or some entity or institution who has hurt you. Like, what are they getting out of it? Oh, you messed up the friend group whenever you decided that you were not going to deal with that particular person anymore. You know, we all hung out together, and now that y'all aren't together anymore, it really messes up our annual trips and the things that we used to do together. First of all, I have to put myself before the friend group. And so I'm not going to like let you guilt me back into that so that all of y'all can be comfortable buying, matching t-shirts every year and going to the Bahamas. I'm not going to do that. My life and my well-being and my mental health and my ability to be whole for the sake of community and for the sake of my calling is much more important than that. Family will say, oh, you messed up the family structure because you decided that you wanted to get a divorce, or you decided that you wanted to walk away from this, or not ever be present when Uncle so-and-so is there, or when this person is there, or when that person is there. And then you can basically look at that as, what kind of family structure is it when the person who has hurt me is being protected, abusers are being protected, toxicity is being protected, and I'm being made to feel as if I am the reason for it all. See, that's scapegoating. You can learn about scapegoating and being a black sheep and all those types of things in some of the other videos that I offer, especially whenever you listen to the videos I've done about radical self-care and things like that. So you choose not to be a scapegoat anymore. And so you choose to forgive and to not restore. And they'll try so hard to blend the two together again. They're not inextricably intertwined, and you can do one without the other. You can forgive and not reallow access. And forgiveness is good for you. It's good for in your own mind. Hey, I don't have to walk around holding this and gritting my teeth for the rest of my life. And if it's good for them too, then fine. But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about what's good for you. We're talking about what's good for you, my friend. We're talking about what keeps you whole and well. I make no apologies. Not for that. I have too much to do here in this world and too many people to impact to be going around and around and playing the same little reindeer games with the same people who don't have any type of concern or care for me, and who only want to remain comfortable and keep things convenient so that they can do what it is that they feel like they came to do. Number 5 is recognize the fact that you deserve to be protected, even if it means that you have to protect yourself. I don't know who you are that's watching me right now. I don't know what type of spiritual belief you subscribe to. I don't know what type of cultural beliefs that you subscribe to, but the name of this channel is Present for Myself for a reason. It means that regardless, it means that even if these institutions fail you, even if you come up and wake up one day with a new revelation that you don't believe these institutions and these communities anymore, you better be prepared to show up for yourself. You better be prepared to practice radical self-care and protect yourself. And you have a right to do that. You have a right to stand up for yourself and say, no more. I will not receive this. I do not believe this. I do not deserve this. In the same way that you would protect someone else when someone else is out to hurt or get them into some place or position. It's like when I think about my son, like, don't come for my child. And we have to be the same way about ourselves. Don't come for me. You are not being any more noble to simply allow people to practice on you, to practice getting better on you. to practice getting whole and well on you. Let me continue to be an abuser. Let me continue to be a liar. Let me continue to be all the things that have made you hurt and experience so much pain. But while I'm doing it, I'm going to be trying to get better. You have a right to say no to that. You have a right to say no to that. You have a right to say, well, I choose to forgive you and wish you the best, and I hope that you get some help, but I cannot allow myself to be the thing that you project onto while you're getting that taken care of. Think about it. When you've done things that where you've hurt yourself, you've made choices, ended up with people or gone places or embarked on journeys or anything where you've made a choice and it's ended up hurting yourself, and then you decide you're going to repent. Repent means to go a different direction. When you decided you're going to go a different direction and make a different choice, you've had to set boundaries for yourself. If you once drank too much, you might say, I don't go to bars anymore because it's when I go to bars that I drink too much. If you once ate too much and it caused you health issues, you have to set boundaries for yourself, don't you? You have to deny yourself access to those things that hurt yourself. So why wouldn't you do that for someone else that's not you, that's trying to hurt you? And for those of you who say, well, they don't consciously, you know what? I don't care if you're consciously trying to hurt me. If you are in a drunken stupor and you put my hand over the stove and burn it, and then you say, I wasn't consciously trying to do that, but you're continuing to go into this space where you get in a drunken stupor and unconsciously do something, you still hurt me. Now I'm still going to have to do the work to heal behind that. And I'm tired of doing the work. So I choose to deny access. Teach your children that if something hurts them or if someone hurts them, they have the right to process that. And they have the right to choose the nature of the relationship going forward. Don't force restoration on people. When I divorced my son's father, I remember the first phone calls I received were from those worried church members who had a relationship with us as a couple. We're not going to let this happen. We're going to pray you guys back together again. And we're going to, sis, bruh, how about just pray that the highest and the best come from this situation? Because you don't know what anyone is going through. Take care of your inner child the way that you would your own child. You can forgive. You don't have to restore. The two do not necessarily go hand in hand. I'm rooting for you.